Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Harmonious Wealth. I'm your host, Iyanna Vaughn. Welcome to another episode. So, we've been talking a lot about your CEO salary being the cornerstone of your financial strategy, and then that builds to the revenue goal. So, then that way, if you make at least two times in revenue as your CEO salary, you have a beginning step for your revenue, right? Now we're getting into the nitty gritty of the keep have principle. I love that principle. It's something that I came up with where you have 50% profit margin before your CEO pay. That way, we can guarantee almost that you'll have adequate profits left over and cash flow to sustain your scaling business. So, the keep have principle allows you to pay yourself without struggling. It also allows you to know what you can afford to hire team and then where to kind of lock in some of those growth strategies or investments throughout the year or when, right? And then it will be able to help you cover your taxes, like your overall tools and your professional development without stressing out about each and every expense. So, today we're talking about how to structure your business expenses so that you don't just make more, quote unquote, but you're actually keeping more in your business. Let's get into it. So, here is a common mistake. When it comes to entrepreneurship and growing your business, there is a focus on revenue first, but we need to focus on profit first. Not to be confused with the cash flow system, profit first. I love that down. I love it, love it, love it, but we're just talking about overall why we need to first focus on profit so then you can actually pay yourself what you need to in your business. Because what happens when you hit your revenue goals, but you're barely making anything to sustain, is you're barely able to pay yourself, you're barely able to cover your team, all the operating expenses, and everything else. So now we're flipping this with the keep half principle. So your revenue should be structured to have at least 50% profit margin before you pay yourself. So let's say if you want to pay yourself $150,000 a year in your business and you can't because you aren't profiting $150,000 in your profit before you pay yourself, something is going awry. Even if you're making 300,000, right? So you're thinking, okay, if I'm making 300,000 in my business, I could of course pay myself 150,000. But that might not be the case, right? That means you have 150,000 to spend potentially in your business so that you can keep that 150,000 to satisfy your CEO salary. But what does that mean though? You might not have anything left over. So there might be a little bit of gauging and movement that you need to make so then you can comfortably pay yourself that 150,000. So you want to ensure, right, after you know what your CEO salary must be, and then you also know what your revenue goal should look like based off of that. Now we're going into how you keep half, and keeping half is really understanding what your operating cost should be. So then that way you have guidelines to hit that keep half principle. And speaking of guidelines, I have a tool called the Profit Guideline tool, and it helps you understand after you know your revenue goal, what you've been doing, how you've been operating these past 6 months, and are you actually hitting your goal for your profit margin? And if not, what needs to change within these next 6 months? Or less, so that you can actually afford to pay yourself what you need, as well as maintain your overall expenses in your business. And then when we talked about like, okay, if the profit guideline says that you need to make 5,000 more in revenue or 10,000 more in revenue, what does that mean when we think of conversion rates, right? Like how many people do you need to, how many leads do you need to be able to hit that? So everything is now is everything is intentional, and when you have more intention and you're building upon your financial strategy, you're able to put things in place simplistically. And I'm having a geek out moment because your financial strategy is literally your CEO salary and then double that to have a first indication of your revenue goal. And then really streamlining your investments and expenses so that you can keep half before you pay yourself. And then it really just kind of closes in together. And then whatever you need for your revenue goal, you keep track of your leads. And then overall, you keep track of your cash flow. You have a cash flow tracking system. But oh, okay, let me just kind of reel it back because I can just geek out over these things. And if you want someone who is just as excited as I am about money and financial strategy, I would be honored to serve you. And I'll list down below like how you can work with me and my team so that you can actually create or make fruition your financial strategy so that you can grow your business, right? So that you can grow your personal, like your legacy goals and things of that nature. So reeling it back to the key path principle, now that we have the guideline of 50% profit margin before you pay yourself in your business, now this gives us 50% of your revenue to play with, not to play with, but to intentionally intentionally utilize in your business. So say for example, if your team is 20%, okay, off the bat 20% goes to your team. If you tithe through your business, okay, off the bat 10% goes to God. And then let's say the next 20%, maybe 5% goes to professional development. And then that leaves 15. Okay, maybe 10% goes to marketing efforts. And then the 5, maybe your tools and software, things like that. So now you have a guideline on what you can actually spend. So when you feel the FOMO of missing out on like an offer or like a product, you're actually following your personal spending plan because you are following it to keep half and to pay yourself. It's got like a chain reaction. So remember when I said that your revenue should be at least twice as much as your CEO salary, but smarter? It might be more than 50%. Because if you're doing the keep half principle, but then you can't pay yourself your full compensation, which is a salary, your health insurance, your 401k contributions, your HSA contributions, add those up all together, that's your full compensation. And if there's nothing left in profit after that number, then that means that you need to increase your revenue goal a little bit, keep expenses the same, so then that way you have profit at the end. So let me create this visual for you. So you have your revenue, you have your expenses before you pay yourself 50% profit margin, right? Maybe what you pay yourself is 30% of your revenue, then that leaves 20% in profit left over. So then you can grow your bank account or you can save for things or you can save for when you have revenue dips. That's going to help you so much. So let's see, final thoughts. It's so important to keep more money as you scale. And I say scale loosely because there was a time when I had like the highest that I've ever earned in revenue, but I had to downsize. There's going to be times where you kind of like expand and then have to contract. I like to think of like in the Bible when God wants to renew something, right? He destroys a thing before it's renewed. Sometimes you might go through seasons where you're destroying things. I know it sounds like crazy, but you might be restructuring your business, but before your business can bloom and blossom, you need to take away everything that's not working. So just because I'm saying things like scaling or like growing your business to multi six figures or seven figures, you might have been in business for maybe 10 plus years or 7 plus years. But the point that I'm making is you really need to get your emotions out and really analyze exactly where you are in business. So, in this episode, we talked about the key path principle and how making intentional decisions on hiring, marketing, and taxes will help you maintain 50% profit margin before you pay yourself. So then you can maintain the cash that you need in your business to grow. So, are you ready to grow your business so that you can keep half of what you earn? Join us. I would be honored to help you with your financial strategy. Please like, comment, and subscribe and share if this video was helpful for you, if this episode was helpful for you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.